Hi, YouTube. Mike here. Just wanted to say a few things about this Casey Anthony situation. Um, I have heard, first of all, I watched the case in its entirety. Every day on True TV, I watched it in session, and when the session went off, I went online and watched CNN.com. And so I saw the full case in its entirety. And this is my take on it. Personally, at first, I thought, yes, she did it. Yes, she's guilty. And she may well be. I'm not saying that she's not. But what I'm having a problem with is everyone attacking the jury members. Just not acceptable. They have a civic duty to do. And so many times we as Americans, we do everything we can to get out of that civic duty. Those 12 people and those alternates, they did their civic duty. They're doing their civic duty. And I watched the case, and I'm not saying that I believe necessarily things happened the way Jose Baez said them, but he created something that's called reasonable doubt. And there's a lot of it. This was a circumstantial case. And it doesn't matter how I believe. The bottom line is the prosecution didn't prove it. You have no cause of death. You have no time of death. Your motive was weak at best because they tried to say it was because she was wanting to go out and party and referring to this tattoo she had on her back, living a beautiful life and all of that kind of stuff. Well, everybody put on the stand said she was a great mother, so that kind of blew that out the window. When you really look at the case, the trial, there is no evidence. There is no one that can tell me how this child died. There is no proof that that child's in the back of the car except for this gentleman who, Dr. Vyas, it's not even recognized in the scientific community, so how can we really take heed to that? At either rate, it's our justice system and it's the way it works. Now, the way I feel about it, if in fact Casey Anthony is guilty of this, or any other member of that family, which is very suspicious in itself because they just, only one that seemed relatively normal was Lee. And then, they didn't help the state's case at all because you got George Anthony who lied on the stand, obviously. You have the mother, Cindy Anthony, she lied on the stand. Both of them could get perjury charges pressed against them if the state attorney's office chooses to do so. So the verdict is, it is what it is. Sorry, it's not what you want, but it's our justice system. It's the way it works. She was judged by her peers, and they came up with this verdict because there is no evidence. I'm watching the case. I was not surprised by the verdict. Am I a little disappointed by it? No, not really. Because if you don't have any evidence, if you don't have any proof, you can't convict someone. The jails are full of people who have been wrongly convicted. And this could be one of those cases. It could not be. But like I said, if she's guilty, God will get her in the end. But moving on from that, the other thing is the way people are reacting. Threatening letters to her parents' lawyers, to the defense lawyers. Death. These are not just threatening letters. Some of them are actually death threats to the lawyers, to the family, to Casey Anthony. If I see you on the street, I'm going to kill you. Well, how does that make you any better? How is that justice for Kaylee? Justice didn't come in the form that you or I or anybody else wanted it to come into, but the facts are the facts. The prosecution had a job. They didn't do their job. And honestly, is Casey Anthony got some culpability? Yes, she was convicted for her culpability on the 4 charges of lying to law enforcement. So, yes, she was convicted of something, and she's probably going to have to pay a lot of money back to the state. Now, I've heard people before say also about the race card playing an issue in this case. The only way I see that the race card played an issue in this case it's because of the large amount of media coverage. I don't think, and I could be wrong, that this case would have been so sensationalized had it been a black person in that particular situation. But other than that, there is no race card. When I started watching the trial, when I started following this case 3.5 years ago, when this happened, no one could have told me that. No, there was no chance that anyone could have told me that she wasn't guilty, because I felt the same way as I'm sure many people did. Yes, she did it. She did it. She did it. But bottom line is, whether she did or she didn't, the prosecution didn't prove it. Their case was weak at best. Jose Baez and his defense team, they did their job. They created reasonable doubt, which is what they were, supposed to do. So, if we want to be angry at someone, there are many other people we could be angry at. Why don't we look at the sheriff's department? Why wasn't Roy Crunk investigated more? Or better yet, why was he thrown through the mud for being a civil servant and doing his due diligence or his duty? Why they had to end up firing that deputy? Because if they would have went out there then and actually found the body, there may have been some type of biological evidence left or DNA left to help her, but they didn't. But so if we want to blame someone, blame them. When you have a case where you don't know how a person died, why a person died, where they died, there's nothing directly linking Casey Anthony to this car with this decomp smell. There's some other shady things. The father, George Anthony, he was a detective for 10 years. If he smelled decomp, what he knew was, according to his testimony, that he knew was an unmistakable smell of decomposition. You're a cop. You were a cop. Why didn't you call the police department right away? Why didn't you call law enforcement right away? Okay. And there's just other things that weren't directly factors to the case, but they were factors to his credibility. And credibility was shot. So we don't know who to believe. But yet and still, we expect for this jury to convict this woman on basically innuendo. That's not the way the justice system works in this country. If you don't have fact, you don't convict. Am I happy about the verdict? No. I would have much rather preferred that she gotten convicted. But on the other hand, what if I was wrong? What if you're wrong? Then we just wrongly convicted someone based on circumstantial evidence. I feel that in today's time, you need to have direct, concrete evidence of a person's guilt or innocence. If you can't prove them, the burden is on the state to prove beyond a reasonable shadow of doubt, that a person is guilty. Watching the case, I'm like, if she was guilty, they didn't prove it. But then we turn around and we're threatening to kill her or kill her family or kill. How does that make us any better? And I say us, I mean us as citizens. How does that make you any better? We want justice for Kaylee, but we're willing to kill her mother for that. We're willing to take another life for that without knowing the facts. We can speculate all we want to, but that's exactly what it is. It's speculation because we have no concrete proof. I cannot say this is exactly what happened from A to Z and tie it all together. There is no way. Unfortunately, the defense's theory, even though I don't know if that's true or not, but it seems to me that it's more feasible of something like that happening more so than the other. And there were just a whole bunch of things that occurred during the case of the trial that kind of left me scratching my head. People's behaviors, George Anthony especially, the secrets in the family. This is directly tied to this case. Maybe not, but maybe it is. There's something going on there more than just what meets the eye. So, and also the jury didn't see all the things that we saw. They didn't see the news coverages. They didn't see what they call proffers were held that we got to see on TV that were held outside of the presence of the jury. They had no exposure to media whatsoever. No cell phones, no Twitter, no Facebook, none of that. So for us to be angry at the jurors is just in my opinion, ludicrous. And for us to be threatening to murder someone else because they were found not guilty by a party of their peers, a group of their peers, these are U.S. citizens, common people just like you and me, to say they're not guilty because they found her not guilty. That doesn't mean she's innocent, but that means the case wasn't proven. I've also heard comments about people saying that because she was from Pinellas County, they were the jurors from Pinellas County, they have no emotional ties to this case. Well, in our justice system, they want you not to have emotion to the case. You look at the facts and only the facts. And that's what this jury did, and which was a tough task. People say they weren't out long enough for deliberation, but if you don't have like I'll say again, a cause of death, a time of death, a motive for death, nobody can tell me how her body ended up from point A to point D. You don't know where she died. You don't have anything. So there is no case. So I think we all need to take a step back before we come so quick to judge, because that wasn't something that was placed on our heads to do. It was placed on those 12 members that sat in that jury box. And by us threatening to kill others, it doesn't make us any better. We need to go ahead and accept it. That was the judge's. That was the jury's verdict. She's going to be released next week, Wednesday, on the 13th, and we need to go ahead and let her live her life. I'm sure some people may disagree with me, but that's the beautiful thing about America. We have freedom of speech. So that's my take on it. You can do as you will with it, but that's how I feel.